Raise your standards, stop explaining yourself, and start letting your actions speak. Written and published by Fearless Audiobook. Introduction. There comes a point in life when you realize that not every question deserves an answer, not every opinion deserves a response, and not every person deserves an explanation. For too long, you may have been handing out pieces of your piece just to keep others comfortable. You may have been defending your choices, justifying your dreams, and explaining your boundaries to people who were never interested in understanding you in the first place. And the painful truth is this: the more you explain yourself to the wrong people, the smaller your life becomes. Real power begins the moment you stop begging to be accepted and start becoming undeniable. Because confidence is not loud, self-respect does not chase, and strength does not waste itself on endless arguments. This audiobook is not about becoming cold, distant, or arrogant. It is about becoming clear. It is about raising your standards so high that your actions, your discipline, and your character speak before your mouth ever has to. If you have ever felt exhausted from proving your worth, this journey is for you. By the end of this audiobook, you will learn how to stop explaining yourself, stop shrinking for approval, and start living in a way that makes respect the natural response. Your life does not need more excuses, it needs more evidence. Now let's begin the journey. Chapter 1. The Day You Stop Begging to be Understood. One of the greatest emotional burdens a person can carry is the constant need to be understood by everyone. It begins so quietly that most people never notice it. You explain why you made a certain decision. You defend your career choices. You justify your boundaries. You replay conversations in your head, wondering if you should have said more, clarified better, or worked harder to make someone see your point of view. Little by little, your life becomes less about living according to your values and more about managing other people's opinions. The truth is, this habit has very little to do with communication. It has everything to do with approval. Deep down, many people believe that if they can just explain themselves well enough, they will finally be accepted. They imagine that the perfect explanation will erase criticism, prevent rejection, and convince everyone that they are making the right choices. But life doesn't work that way. People do not always misunderstand you because you failed to explain yourself. Sometimes they misunderstand you because they see life through a completely different lens. And some people have already decided what they want to believe long before you ever open your mouth. Think about how exhausting it is to carry that responsibility. Every decision feels like it needs a presentation. Every boundary requires a speech. Every dream demands approval from an audience that never bought a ticket to your journey. Instead of enjoying your own life, you become the public relations manager of your own identity, constantly trying to improve your image in the eyes of others. It is emotionally draining because no matter how carefully you explain yourself, there will always be someone who chooses not to understand. The strongest people eventually discover a liberating truth. You are not responsible for managing another person's perception of you. You are only responsible for living with honesty, integrity, and consistency. Once you understand this, an incredible weight begins to lift from your shoulders. You stop chasing agreement and start pursuing authenticity. You stop asking, "How can I make everyone understand?" and begin asking, "Am I living according to my values?" That single shift changes everything. Consider the lives of people who changed history. Inventors, entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, and leaders all faced misunderstanding. Many were criticized, doubted, or even laughed at before their work proved itself. If they had spent all their energy convincing critics, they would have had little left to build the future they envisioned. Their success did not come from perfect explanations. It came from unwavering commitment to their purpose. This lesson applies just as much to ordinary life. Maybe your family doesn't understand why you left a secure job to pursue a dream. Maybe your friends question why you've become more selective with your time. Maybe people accuse you of changing because you no longer tolerate disrespect. Their opinions are not proof that you're making the wrong choice. Often, they are simply evidence that your life is growing in a direction that no longer fits their expectations. There is also an uncomfortable reality that many people avoid accepting. Not everyone wants to understand you. Some people benefit from keeping you small. Others feel threatened when you become more confident because your growth reminds them of the changes they refuse to make. No explanation will satisfy someone who has already decided to misunderstand you. Continuing to argue only gives away your energy while strengthening their influence over your emotions. This doesn't mean you should become cold or refuse to communicate. Healthy relationships thrive on honest conversations. But there is a profound difference between communicating with people who genuinely care and constantly defending yourself before people who are determined to judge you. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Mature confidence knows when a conversation is productive and when silence is the stronger response. Imagine how much emotional freedom you would gain if you no longer felt obligated to justify every decision. Imagine waking up without rehearsing explanations for choices that align with your own values. Imagine making decisions because they are right for your future instead of because they are acceptable to everyone around you. That freedom is not arrogance, it is self-respect. The day you stop begging to be understood is the day you reclaim ownership of your life. Your confidence no longer depends on applause. Your peace no longer depends on agreement. Your identity no longer depends on someone else's approval. Instead of spending your energy explaining who you are, you invest it in becoming the person you were meant to be. From this day forward, make a simple promise to yourself. Let your decisions reflect your values. Let your boundaries protect your peace. Let your consistency build your reputation. And let your life become the explanation that words could never fully provide. Because the people who truly matter will recognize your character through your actions, while those determined to misunderstand you would never have been convinced by another explanation anyway. Chapter 2. Silence is the language of self-respect. There is a strange pressure in today's world to have an answer for everything. If someone questions your decision, you are expected to defend it. If someone criticizes your character, you feel compelled to clear your name. If someone misunderstands your intentions, you rush to explain yourself before the misunderstanding grows. Somewhere along the way, many people began believing that silence is a sign of weakness. But the truth is often the exact opposite. Silence, when chosen with wisdom, is one of the strongest expressions of self-respect. Think about the moments when you have argued with someone who had already made up their mind. No matter how carefully you explained your point, they twisted your words, ignored your intentions, or searched for another reason to disagree. By the end of the conversation, you were not only exhausted, you also felt smaller. Your peace had been traded for a debate that changed nothing. This happens because not every conversation is seeking truth. Some conversations are seeking control. Some people ask questions not because they want understanding, but because they want access to your emotions. They provoke you, challenge you, and wait for you to defend yourself. Every explanation becomes another opportunity for them to criticize, manipulate, or make you doubt yourself. The strongest people recognize this pattern early. They understand that not every invitation to argue deserves an acceptance. They know that protecting their peace is more valuable than winning an argument. They realize that silence is not surrender, it is selective participation. It is the decision to stop investing energy where there will never be a meaningful return. This does not mean becoming passive or avoiding difficult conversations. There are times when honest communication is necessary. Healthy relationships are built on openness, respect, and mutual listening. If someone genuinely wants to understand you, your words matter. But there is an enormous difference between explaining yourself to someone who cares and defending yourself before someone who has already decided to judge you. Wisdom is knowing which conversation deserves your voice. Many people confuse confidence with loudness. They believe that the strongest person in the room is the one speaking the most, making the boldest claims, or always having the final word. Yet history repeatedly shows the opposite. Truly confident people rarely feel the need to prove themselves. They are secure enough to let time reveal the truth. They understand that character is not built through clever arguments, but through consistent actions. Consider the example of Kobe Bryant. Throughout his legendary basketball career, he faced criticism from fans, the media, and even fellow athletes. People questioned his leadership, his playing style, and his personality. Yet Kobe rarely spent his energy trying to convince critics that they were wrong. Instead, he returned to the court, trained harder than almost anyone else, and allowed his performance to answer every doubt. His discipline became louder than his interviews. His championships became stronger than the opinions surrounding him. He understood a lesson that many people spend their entire lives trying to learn. Results speak with a volume that explanations never can. Imagine applying that principle to your own life. Instead of arguing about your work ethic, become so disciplined that your results are impossible to ignore. Instead of convincing people that you are trustworthy, become consistently honest until your reputation speaks for itself. Instead of defending your ambitions, quietly pursue them every single day. Eventually, your actions will tell a story that no explanation could ever match. There is another reason silence is so powerful. It creates emotional space. When someone criticizes you, your first reaction may be to respond immediately. But immediate reactions are often driven by emotion rather than wisdom. Silence gives you the opportunity to pause, reflect, and choose your response instead of allowing your emotions to choose it for you. In that pause, anger loses its grip. Pride softens. Perspective grows. What once seemed like an urgent argument often becomes completely unnecessary. Silence also reveals people. Some individuals respect your boundaries and your calm. Others become frustrated because they can no longer control your emotions. When you stop reacting to every criticism, every insult, or every accusation, you begin to see who was truly interested in understanding you and who was simply seeking a reaction. Their response tells you more about their character than your explanation ever could. Of course, choosing silence is not always easy. Your ego wants to defend itself. Your pride wants the last word. Your fear wants everyone to think well of you. But maturity teaches a different lesson. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Not every rumor deserves attention. Not every opinion requires a response. Sometimes the greatest victory is walking away with your peace intact. As you raise your standards, your relationship with silence must change. Stop seeing it as emptiness and start seeing it as strength. Every unnecessary argument you refuse to enter protects your energy for something that truly matters. Every insult you choose not to answer strengthens your emotional discipline. Every moment you refuse to chase validation reminds you that your worth is not determined by someone else's opinion. People who constantly explain themselves often become prisoners of public approval. People who master silence become owners of their own peace. They understand that respect is not demanded through words, it is earned through character. They know that time exposes truth better than arguments ever will. They trust that consistent actions, lived day after day, are the most convincing explanation anyone could ever offer. So the next time someone misunderstands you, pause before speaking. Ask yourself a simple question. Am I trying to communicate with someone who genuinely wants to understand? Or am I trying to convince someone who has already decided not to? That single question can save you countless hours of frustration and emotional exhaustion. Remember this principle as you continue your journey. Your voice is valuable, but your peace is priceless. Speak when your words can build, heal, or clarify. But when the conversation exists only to drain your energy or challenge your dignity, allow your silence to speak instead. because silence, chosen from confidence rather than fear, is not weakness at all. It is the quiet language of self-respect. Chapter 3. Raise your standards, even if it means walking alone. The moment you decide to raise your standards, your life begins to change in ways you never expected. At first, the changes feel exciting. You become more disciplined. You become more intentional with your time. You stop tolerating disrespect. You begin choosing growth over comfort. But then something uncomfortable happens. The people who once applauded your company may become distant. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly begin to feel forced. Invitations become fewer. You start looking around and realize that the road to becoming your best self is often quieter than the road you left behind. This is the part of growth that no one likes to talk about. Everyone celebrates success, but very few prepare you for the loneliness that often comes before it. Many people believe that if they improve themselves, everyone around them will naturally be happy. Unfortunately, that isn't always true. Your growth changes the balance of your relationships. When you stop accepting negativity, negative people feel uncomfortable. When you stop wasting time, those who waste theirs may accuse you of changing. When you begin respecting yourself, those who benefited from your lack of boundaries may suddenly call you selfish. But here's the truth. You are changing. And that's exactly the point. Too many people stay trapped in average lives because they fear being alone more than they fear staying the same. They continue saying yes when they want to say no. They continue shrinking their dreams to fit into conversations that no longer inspire them. They sacrifice their future to preserve relationships that only survive when they remain small. Growth always demands a price. Sometimes the price is comfort. Sometimes the price is familiarity. And sometimes the price is people. That doesn't mean you should abandon everyone who disagrees with you. It simply means accepting that not every relationship is designed to grow with every version of you. Some people were part of a chapter, not the entire story. Their purpose was to teach you a lesson, not accompany you forever. This realization can be painful because humans are wired for connection. We naturally seek belonging. We want to feel accepted by our families, friends, co-workers, and communities. There is nothing wrong with that desire. The problem begins when belonging becomes more important than becoming. Imagine climbing a mountain with a group of friends. At the beginning, everyone is excited. The path is wide and the climb is easy. But as the mountain becomes steeper, some people stop. Others decide the view isn't worth the effort. A few even try to convince you to turn back with them. If your goal is to reach the summit, you eventually face a difficult decision. Stay where everyone feels comfortable or continue climbing alone. Life works the same way. Every new level requires leaving an old one behind. One of the greatest examples of this truth is J.K. Rowling. Before the world knew her name, she faced rejection after rejection. She was a single mother struggling financially while carrying a dream that almost no one believed in. Publishers rejected her manuscript repeatedly. She could have interpreted those rejections as proof that she should quit. She could have chosen the comfort of giving up instead of enduring the loneliness of persistence. Instead, she kept writing. She trusted her vision more than other people's opinions. Eventually, one publisher took a chance on a story about a young wizard named Harry Potter. The rest is history. But imagine if she had abandoned her dream simply because too few people believed in it during the difficult years. The loneliness she experienced became the bridge to a life that inspired millions. Your journey may not involve writing a best-selling novel, but it will require the same courage. There will be seasons when very few people understand what you're building. They won't see the early mornings, the sacrifices, the quiet discipline, or the countless moments when you choose progress over pleasure. They will only notice the results once success becomes visible. That's why you cannot rely on applause to stay motivated. Applause comes late. Character is built long before the audience arrives. There is an important difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness is feeling empty because you depend on others to complete you. Solitude is choosing temporary isolation because you are becoming someone stronger. One drains your spirit, the other strengthens it. The people who accomplish extraordinary things often become comfortable with solitude. They use quiet moments to think deeply, learn continuously, improve their skills, and reconnect with their purpose. While others chase constant entertainment, they are building a future that eventually speaks for itself. If you are currently experiencing distance from certain people because you've decided to raise your standards, don't assume something is wrong with you. Sometimes life removes distractions before it introduces opportunities. Sometimes empty seats create room for better company. Sometimes the people you lose are making space for the people you truly need. That doesn't erase the emotional pain. It still hurts when old friendships fade. It still hurts when family members fail to understand your ambitions. It still hurts when people accuse you of becoming different. But perhaps becoming different is exactly what your future requires. Never apologize for outgrowing a version of yourself that no longer serves you. Never lower your standards simply to make other people comfortable. Never trade your purpose for temporary acceptance. Remember, every meaningful transformation begins with a difficult decision. The decision to choose your future over familiarity. The decision to choose discipline over comfort. The decision to choose purpose over popularity. As you continue this journey, you may walk through seasons where the road feels quiet. There will be moments when doubt whispers that turning back would be easier. Resist that temptation. Every step forward is shaping a stronger, wiser, and more authentic version of yourself. One day, you'll look back and realize that walking alone was never the punishment you feared. It was the training that prepared you for the life you were meant to live. Raise your standards, even if it means walking alone today, because the right people won't ask you to lower your values to earn their company. They will meet you at the level where character, integrity, and purpose become the foundation of every relationship. And when that day comes, you will understand that losing the wrong people was never truly a loss. It was one of the greatest victories of your life. Chapter 4. Stop explaining your boundaries to people who benefit from breaking them. One of the clearest signs that your standards are rising is that you begin saying one simple word more often: no. It is a small word, yet it has the power to transform your life. It protects your time, your energy, your values, and your peace. But strangely, the moment you begin using it, you may discover something unsettling. The people who respected you the least often object to it the most. Why? Because boundaries expose intentions. People who genuinely care about you may not always like your boundaries, but they will learn to respect them. Those who become angry, manipulative, or offended often reveal something deeper. They benefited from your lack of boundaries. They were comfortable when you always said yes. They enjoyed having unlimited access to your time, your attention, and your emotional energy. Your willingness to sacrifice yourself made their lives easier. The moment you stop sacrificing yourself, they call you selfish. The moment you protect your peace, they accuse you of changing. The moment you choose your own well-being, they make you feel guilty. This is where many people make a costly mistake. Instead of simply holding their boundary, they begin explaining it. They write long messages. They apologize repeatedly. They offer detailed reasons, hoping the other person will understand. But the more they explain, the weaker their boundary becomes. Think about it for a moment. If every no must come with a 5-minute speech, then your boundary is no longer a decision. It has become a negotiation. People quickly learn this pattern. If they pressure you long enough, you'll eventually explain. If they question you enough, you'll begin to doubt yourself. If they make you feel guilty enough, you'll change your answer. Without realizing it, you've taught them that your boundaries are flexible whenever they apply enough emotional pressure. This cycle often begins much earlier than adulthood. Many people grow up believing they must earn love by being agreeable. They become the dependable friend, the child who never causes problems, the employee who never refuses extra work, or the family member who always puts everyone else first. At first, these qualities are praised, but over time they become expectations. People stop appreciating your generosity. They begin expecting it. The moment you stop giving endlessly, disappointment replaces gratitude. That disappointment is not proof that your boundary is wrong. It is proof that someone became comfortable with unlimited access to you. Healthy boundaries are not walls that shut people out. They are doors that allow the right people in while keeping manipulation outside. They are not expressions of anger. They are expressions of wisdom. They communicate one simple message: I value myself enough to protect what matters. Many people fear boundaries because they confuse them with rejection. They worry that saying no will damage relationships. In reality, healthy boundaries reveal the true strength of a relationship. A relationship built on respect survives boundaries. A relationship built on control falls apart because of them. There is a powerful example in the life of Oprah Winfrey. As her influence and success grew, countless people wanted access to her time. Invitations multiplied. Requests became endless. If she had tried to satisfy everyone, she would have had nothing left for herself, her purpose, or the work that mattered most. Instead, she became intentional about protecting her time and emotional well-being. She learned that saying yes to everything meant saying no to her own priorities. She didn't spend her life apologizing for every decision or explaining every limit she set. She understood that boundaries were not obstacles to success. They were one of the reasons success became possible. The same principle applies to every area of life. Perhaps a friend expects you to answer every late-night phone call, even when you're exhausted. Perhaps a co-worker repeatedly asks you to finish work that belongs to them. Perhaps a family member constantly criticizes your decisions while expecting unlimited access to your life. Perhaps someone repeatedly crosses lines you've already made clear. In each situation, the question is not whether you can explain your boundary better. The question is whether the other person truly respects it. People who value you will adjust. People who value control will argue. One of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is that not everyone deserves unlimited access to your life simply because they have known you for a long time. Time does not automatically create trust. Shared history does not excuse repeated disrespect. Loyalty should never require the abandonment of self-respect. Many people stay trapped in unhealthy relationships because they mistake guilt for responsibility. They believe they are responsible for everyone else's happiness. So they continue saying yes while silently becoming resentful. They smile on the outside while feeling emotionally exhausted on the inside. But resentment is often the result of boundaries that were never established. Every unnecessary yes slowly becomes a burden. Every ignored boundary quietly steals your confidence. Every moment you betray yourself teaches others that your needs come last. Imagine a house without doors. Anyone could walk in at any time. They could take what they wanted, stay as long as they pleased, and leave behind whatever mess they created. No one would call that a safe home. Yet many people treat their emotional lives exactly that way. They allow unlimited access, unlimited demands, unlimited criticism, unlimited interruptions. Then they wonder why they feel emotionally drained. Boundaries are the doors of your inner life. They protect what is valuable. They preserve your peace. They remind others that your time and emotional energy are not unlimited resources. Of course, setting boundaries may disappoint some people. It may even cost you certain relationships. But ask yourself this: if someone only values you when you constantly abandon yourself for their benefit, is that relationship built on love or convenience? The answer may be painful, but it is also freeing. As your standards rise, you will discover that every healthy boundary is an act of self-respect. You no longer say yes because you're afraid of rejection. You no longer explain every decision because you're afraid of being misunderstood. You no longer apologize for protecting your peace. Instead, you understand something that emotionally mature people learn early. Your responsibility is not to make everyone comfortable. Your responsibility is to live with integrity. Some people will misunderstand your boundaries. Others will challenge them. A few may even leave because of them. Let them. The people who truly belong in your life will never ask you to sacrifice your dignity in exchange for their approval. They will appreciate your honesty, respect your limits, and value your well-being just as much as their own. So the next time you need to say no, say it with calmness rather than guilt. You don't owe everyone a lengthy explanation. You don't need permission to protect your peace. Your boundaries are not a request for acceptance. They are a declaration of self-respect. And the day you stop explaining your boundaries to people who benefit from breaking them is the day you finally begin living according to your own standards, not someone else's expectations. Chapter 5. Your life is not a courtroom. Have you ever noticed how often you defend yourself for simply living your life? You explain why you chose a different career. You justify why you ended a relationship. You defend why you moved to a new city, changed your habits, started a business, spent more time alone, or stopped talking to certain people. It feels as though every decision comes with an invisible trial, and somehow you are expected to stand in the witness box and prove that your choices are reasonable. But here is the truth that can change your life forever. Your life is not a courtroom. You are not on trial. You do not wake up every morning owing the world an explanation for becoming the person you were created to be. Yet countless people live as though an invisible jury is watching every move they make. Before making a decision, they ask themselves, what will people think? Before pursuing a dream, they wonder, how will I explain this to everyone? Before setting a boundary, they worry, will people misunderstand me? Slowly, without realizing it, they stop living according to their values and begin living according to public opinion. That is one of the greatest prisons a person can build. The strange thing about trying to satisfy everyone is that it never works. No matter how carefully you explain your decisions, someone will still disagree. Some people will criticize because they genuinely see life differently. Others will criticize because your choices challenge their own comfort. And a few will criticize simply because they enjoy finding faults. Their reactions are not under your control, but your response is. Imagine standing in an actual courtroom. Every statement you make can be questioned. Every answer can lead to another question. Every explanation invites another challenge. That is exactly what happens when you constantly defend your life choices. One explanation leads to another. One justification creates the need for another justification. Before long, you are trapped in conversations that never truly end. The more you defend yourself, the more people assume they have the right to judge you. When you stop acting like a defendant, many people stop acting like judges. This does not mean becoming rude or refusing to communicate. It means recognizing the difference between sharing your heart with people who genuinely care and defending yourself before people who have no intention of understanding you. There is a difference between accountability and approval. Accountability is healthy. If you make a mistake, admit it. If you hurt someone, apologize sincerely. If you break a promise, take responsibility. Owning your actions is a sign of maturity. Approval is different. Approval says your decisions are only valid if everyone agrees with them. That is an impossible standard to live by. Some of the greatest achievements in history were criticized long before they were celebrated. Visionaries, inventors, entrepreneurs, artists, and leaders often faced rejection because they saw possibilities that others could not yet imagine. If they had waited for unanimous approval, they would never have changed the world. The same principle applies to your own life. Maybe your dream is not to build a global company or write a best-selling book. Maybe your dream is simply to create a peaceful family, improve your health, leave a draining job, or become emotionally stronger than you were yesterday. Whatever your goal may be, someone will question it. Someone will think you are moving too fast. Someone else will think you are moving too slowly. Someone will say you are taking unnecessary risks. Another person will say you lack ambition. If you spend your life responding to every opinion, you will never have enough energy left to build the future you actually want. There comes a moment when emotionally mature people realize something remarkable. Most people are too busy living their own lives to think about yours nearly as much as you imagine. The fear of judgment is often much larger than the judgment itself. We create imaginary audiences in our minds. We rehearse conversations that never happen. We prepare explanations that nobody ever asks to hear. We lose sleep over opinions that may never even exist. How much peace could you recover if you stopped trying to win arguments that only exist inside your imagination? How much confidence could you build if you trusted your values more than other people's expectations? There is another important lesson. People often judge you based on only a tiny fraction of your life. They see one decision. You know the 100 experiences that led to it. They hear one sentence. You carry years of memories behind those words. They witness one chapter. You have lived the entire story. How could someone possibly understand every choice you've made when they have never walked through your experiences? They can't. And they don't have to. Your responsibility is not to convince every observer that your path is correct. Your responsibility is to make sure your path is honest. There is incredible freedom in accepting that misunderstanding is sometimes unavoidable. Not because you failed, not because you communicated poorly, but because every person interprets life through their own experiences, fears, beliefs, and expectations. You cannot control another person's perspective. You can only control your integrity. That is why people with strong character become increasingly calm as they grow older. They stop reacting to every opinion. They stop defending every decision. They understand that truth does not become stronger because it is repeated 100 times. Truth remains true whether it is applauded or criticized. When your values are clear, your explanations become fewer. When your purpose is strong, outside opinions become quieter. When your confidence grows, the need to defend yourself slowly disappears. This does not happen overnight. There will still be moments when criticism hurts. There will still be days when you want everyone to understand your intentions. That is part of being human. But each time you choose peace over unnecessary defense, you become emotionally stronger. Each time you refuse to argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim a little more of your freedom. Each time you stop treating your life like a case that must be defended, you remember something powerful. You are the author of your story, not the audience, not the critics, not the spectators. You. As you continue raising your standards, make this quiet promise to yourself. I will live honestly. I will act with integrity. I will accept responsibility for my mistakes. But I will no longer seek permission to live according to my values, because my life is not a courtroom. I am not on trial, and I refuse to spend my future defending choices that are leading me toward the life I was meant to build. Chapter 6. Let your discipline speak louder than your promises. We live in a world that celebrates announcements. People announce their goals before they begin. They talk about the business they are going to build, the book they are going to write, the body they are going to achieve, and the success they are certain is coming. They make promises with confidence, believing that speaking about their dreams is the same as moving toward them. But life has a way of exposing the difference between intention and action. Words may inspire people for a moment, but only discipline earns lasting respect. There is nothing wrong with having big dreams. There is nothing wrong with sharing your vision with people who genuinely support you. The danger begins when talking about your goals becomes more satisfying than working toward them. Every time you describe the future you want, your brain enjoys a small feeling of accomplishment. Yet that feeling can become a substitute for the hard work that real achievement demands. The truth is simple. Dreams are built in silence. Success is built in repetition. Greatness is built in discipline. Discipline is not exciting. It rarely receives applause. It doesn't always feel rewarding in the moment. It asks you to wake up early when no one is watching. It asks you to keep going after the excitement disappears. It asks you to honor commitments even when motivation is nowhere to be found. That is why discipline separates those who merely talk about success from those who actually achieve it. Many people wait until they feel motivated before they take action. They believe they must first feel inspired, energetic, or confident. But motivation is unpredictable. Some days it arrives, other days it disappears without warning. Discipline operates differently. Discipline says, whether I feel like it or not, I will keep my promise to myself. That single mindset changes everything. Imagine two people who both decide to improve their health. The first person spends weeks talking about their future transformation. They tell friends about the diet they are starting. They post motivational quotes online. They buy expensive workout clothes and imagine how different life will become. The second person says very little. Instead, they quietly wake up each morning, exercise consistently, prepare healthy meals, and repeat the process every day. 6 months later, one person has a collection of promises. The other has a transformed life. The difference was never talent. It was discipline. This principle extends far beyond fitness. It applies to careers, relationships, finances, education, and personal growth. Every meaningful achievement is the result of ordinary actions repeated long enough to create extraordinary outcomes. That is why successful people often appear ordinary during the process. Their greatness is hidden inside routines that seem almost boring. They read when others scroll endlessly through social media. They practice while others procrastinate. They prepare while others complain. Day after day, they choose consistency over convenience. Then one day, the world calls them overnight successes. What people fail to see are the thousands of quiet decisions that created that moment. David Goggins is one of the most powerful examples of this principle. Before becoming known as one of the toughest endurance athletes in the world, he struggled with obesity, self-doubt, and a painful past. He could have spent years explaining why life had been unfair. He had enough reasons to quit that most people would have understood. Instead, he chose discipline. He began doing difficult things every single day, whether he felt ready or not. He trained relentlessly, pushed beyond limits that seemed impossible, and kept showing up when comfort begged him to stop. He did not build his reputation by making promises to the world. He built it by making promises to himself and refusing to break them. That is the true power of discipline. It transforms identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send your mind a powerful message. I can trust myself. Trust is not only something other people give you, it is something you build with yourself. Every skipped commitment weakens that trust. Every fulfilled commitment strengthens it. Imagine promising yourself that you will read for 30 minutes every day. The first day feels easy. The second day requires more effort. By the 10th day, excuses begin to appear. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too tired. One day won't matter. Those excuses seem harmless. But every broken promise teaches your mind that your words cannot be trusted. Now imagine making the opposite choice. You read even when you're tired. You continue even when progress feels slow. You honor the commitment because you said you would. Over time, something remarkable happens. Your confidence stops depending on compliments. It begins depending on evidence. You know you are disciplined because you have lived it. You no longer need to convince anyone. Your actions have already done that. This is why discipline creates a reputation that promises never can. People eventually stop listening to what you say. They start watching what you consistently do. If you promise excellence but repeatedly arrive late, your actions become your reputation. If you claim honesty but frequently break your word, your actions become your reputation. If you say family is your priority but never make time for them, your actions become your reputation. Words introduce you. Habits define you. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that discipline means living without joy. In reality, discipline creates freedom. Financial discipline creates financial choices. Physical discipline creates better health. Emotional discipline creates stronger relationships. Time discipline creates opportunities that careless living can never provide. Without discipline, life becomes controlled by impulses. With discipline, life becomes guided by purpose. There will be days when your efforts seem invisible. You will work hard while receiving little recognition. You will remain consistent while others appear to move ahead faster. You may even question whether your daily habits are making any difference. Keep going. A seed does not become a tree overnight. For a long time, nothing appears to happen above the ground. Yet, beneath the surface, roots are growing stronger every single day. When growth finally becomes visible, people admire the tree without realizing how much invisible work made it possible. Your discipline works the same way. Every early morning, every extra page you read, every workout you complete, every distraction you resist, every promise you keep, each one is strengthening roots that others cannot yet see. Eventually, those roots produce results that cannot be ignored. As you raise your standards, make a decision that will shape the rest of your life. Talk less about what you plan to do. Spend more time doing it. Replace announcements with action. Replace excuses with consistency. Replace temporary motivation with daily discipline. There is a quiet confidence that belongs only to disciplined people. It does not need attention because it is built on proof. It does not seek validation because it already knows what it has overcome. It does not fear criticism because every day of consistent effort has made it stronger. When people question your ability, don't argue. When they doubt your commitment, don't defend yourself. When they underestimate your potential, don't waste energy trying to convince them. Go back to work. Go back to your routine. Go back to your purpose. Then allow time to reveal what words never could. Because in the end, people rarely remember what you promised. They remember what you built. They remember what you accomplished. They remember how consistently you showed up when others gave up. So let your discipline become your introduction. Let your consistency become your reputation. And let your life become undeniable proof that actions will always speak louder than promises. Chapter 7. Stop chasing validation from people who never planned to applaud you. One of the most painful traps a person can fall into is believing that happiness will finally arrive when everyone approves of them. It sounds reasonable at first. We all want to be appreciated. We want our efforts to be recognized, our achievements to be celebrated, and our intentions to be understood. There is nothing wrong with wanting encouragement. The problem begins when your sense of worth depends on someone else's approval. That is the moment you surrender control of your happiness. If your confidence rises only when people praise you, it will also collapse the moment they criticize you. Your emotions become controlled by opinions you cannot control. You begin living for applause instead of purpose, and without realizing it, your identity slowly shifts into the hands of other people. The difficult truth is that not everyone wants to see you succeed. Some people will cheer for you only as long as you remain behind them. Some will support your dreams only while those dreams remain small enough not to challenge their comfort. The moment your growth becomes real, their encouragement disappears. This is not always because they are cruel. Sometimes your progress reminds them of the goals they abandoned. Sometimes your discipline exposes their excuses. Sometimes your courage forces them to confront fears they have spent years avoiding. Instead of becoming inspired, they become uncomfortable. And uncomfortable people often disguise their insecurity as criticism. This is why you must be careful whose opinions you allow into your heart. Not every voice deserves influence. Imagine climbing a mountain with a group of friends. At the bottom, everyone is excited. They encourage one another, laugh together, and enjoy the journey. But as the climb becomes steeper, some decide to stop. Others begin complaining about how difficult the path has become. When you continue climbing, something unexpected happens. Instead of encouraging you, they begin questioning you. Why are you working so hard? Is it really worth it? You're changing. You used to be more fun. What they rarely say is the truth. Your determination reminds them that they stopped climbing. Many people who criticize your ambition are not evaluating your potential. They are protecting their own comfort. That is why chasing validation is such a dangerous habit. You end up asking people for permission to become someone they secretly hope you never become. Consider the story of Michael Jordan. Before becoming one of the greatest basketball players in history, he was cut from his high school varsity basketball team. That rejection could have convinced him that he wasn't talented enough. He could have spent years trying to prove himself to the people who overlooked him. Instead, he chose a different response. He went back to work. He practiced longer. He trained harder. He allowed discipline, not disappointment, to shape his future. Michael Jordan didn't build his legacy by chasing approval from those who doubted him. He built it by becoming so exceptional that history could not ignore him. That lesson applies far beyond sports. Perhaps someone doubted your abilities. Perhaps they laughed at your business idea. Perhaps they questioned your career choice, your education, your appearance, or your dreams. Those opinions may have hurt, but they were never meant to become your identity. You are not defined by the people who underestimated you. You are defined by the decisions you make after they do. There is another hidden danger in constantly seeking validation. It turns you into a shapeshifter. Around one group you behave one way. Around another group you become someone different. You change your opinions to avoid conflict. You hide your ambitions so others won't feel uncomfortable. You pretend to agree with things that violate your values simply to be accepted. Over time, you become a stranger to yourself. You know who everyone else wants you to be, but you no longer know who you truly are. Authenticity disappears whenever acceptance becomes more important than integrity. This is why emotionally mature people stop asking, "Do they approve of me?" Instead, they ask a far more powerful question. Am I becoming the person I respect? That question changes everything, because self-respect lasts longer than applause. Applause fades. Approval changes. Public opinion shifts. But the quiet confidence that comes from living according to your values remains. It stays with you on difficult days. It strengthens you when criticism arrives. It reminds you that your worth was never meant to be decided by a crowd. One of the greatest freedoms in life comes when you realize that some people will never celebrate your success. Not because you failed, but because they had already decided not to. You could achieve everything you once dreamed of, and they would still find something to criticize. You could become kinder, wiser, healthier, wealthier, and more disciplined, yet they would still search for flaws. Their approval was never the prize. Your peace is. Imagine how much emotional energy you would recover if you stopped trying to impress people who had no intention of applauding you. Imagine how much progress you could make if you redirected that energy toward learning, growing, creating, and improving yourself. Instead of spending hours wondering why someone doesn't support you, spend those hours becoming stronger. Instead of seeking recognition, seek mastery. Instead of craving applause, Pursue excellence. Excellence creates opportunities that approval never can. There is a quiet confidence that develops when you stop depending on external validation. You stop announcing every goal because you no longer need immediate encouragement. You stop explaining every decision because you trust your own judgment. You stop comparing your life with everyone else's because your purpose becomes more important than public opinion. That confidence cannot be taken away by criticism. It is built from within. As you continue raising your standards, remember that the right people will celebrate your growth without feeling threatened by it. They will encourage your success without comparing it to their own. They will challenge you to become better without asking you to become smaller. Those are the voices worth listening to. Everyone else is simply background noise. So stop chasing validation from people who never plan to applaud you. Their silence is not proof that you are failing. Their criticism is not proof that you are wrong. Their approval is not the destination. Your purpose is: walk toward it with courage, work toward it with discipline, protect it with unwavering self-respect. And one day, when your life reflects the standards you chose instead of the approval you chased, you will discover a truth that changes everything. The loudest applause you will ever receive is the quiet satisfaction of looking in the mirror and knowing you remained faithful to yourself. That kind of validation does not come from the world. It comes from within. And unlike public opinion, it can never be taken away. Chapter 8. Become so valuable that your presence needs no introduction. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't enter a room demanding attention, speaking the loudest, or trying to impress everyone it meets. Yet somehow, people notice it. They listen more carefully. They pay closer attention. They trust it before a single promise is made. That power is not created by popularity. It is created by value. In today's world, many people spend more time trying to look valuable than becoming valuable. They carefully manage their image, post carefully edited moments of success, and speak confidently about goals they have not yet achieved. They believe visibility creates significance, but appearances can only carry someone so far. Eventually, reality always introduces itself. A person can wear expensive clothes but still lack integrity. They can speak with confidence but have no discipline. They can attract attention but fail to earn respect. True value cannot be manufactured through image alone. It is built quietly, one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one promise kept at a time. The beautiful thing about genuine value is that it speaks long before you do. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. Before they begin describing themselves, you notice the way they treat people who cannot benefit them. You notice that they listen carefully instead of constantly interrupting. You notice they arrive on time, keep their word, remain calm under pressure, and treat everyone with respect, regardless of status. Without realizing it, you have already formed an impression. Not because of what they said, because of who they are. Character always introduces a person before conversation does. Unfortunately, many people spend years trying to convince others they are trustworthy, intelligent, hard-working, or successful. They constantly tell people who they are, hoping words will create belief. But words are temporary. Character is permanent. Think about the people you admire most. Chances are they earned your respect long before they ever asked for it. Maybe it was a teacher whose consistency changed your life. Maybe it was a mentor who always did what they promised. Maybe it was a family member whose quiet sacrifices spoke louder than endless advice. They didn't become influential because they demanded admiration. They became influential because they deserved it. That is the difference between seeking attention and creating value. One disappears when people stop looking. The other grows stronger with time. Becoming valuable is not about being perfect. It is about becoming dependable. When people know they can trust your word, your value increases. When they know you finish what you start, your value increases. When they know you remain honest, even when dishonesty would be easier, your value increases. Every small act of integrity becomes another brick in the foundation of your reputation. Most people underestimate the power of consistency because its rewards are delayed. You don't become respected after one disciplined day. You don't become trustworthy after one honest conversation. You don't become exceptional after one successful project. Value is accumulated just like interest in a savings account. Every day you invest in yourself, the return grows quietly beneath the surface. The world rarely notices these daily investments at first. People only notice the results after years of consistency. That is why patience is one of the greatest companions of excellence. A tree does not become strong because of one season of sunshine. It becomes strong because it survives every season. Storms strengthen its roots. Time expands its branches. Years give it stability. Human character develops the same way. Every challenge either increases your value or exposes the areas that still need growth. One remarkable example of this principle is Keanu Reeves. Despite achieving worldwide fame and enormous success, Reeves became respected for something far greater than his acting career. Countless stories describe his humility, generosity, professionalism, and kindness. He has been seen giving up his seat on public transportation, treating film crews with genuine respect, quietly donating to charitable causes without seeking publicity, and remaining grounded despite decades in the spotlight. Notice something important. People rarely admire Keanu Reeves simply because he starred in successful movies. They admire the kind of person he chose to become. His reputation was built not only on talent, but on character. That is why his presence commands respect before he even speaks. His actions became his introduction. That lesson applies whether you are a student, an entrepreneur, an employee, a parent, or a leader. Your greatest asset is not your title. It is your reliability. Imagine being the person who always prepares before important meetings. The person who keeps promises without needing reminders. The person who remains calm when everyone else is panicking. The person who solves problems instead of creating them. That kind of individual becomes indispensable, not because they demanded recognition, because they consistently created value. Many people ask, how can I become more successful? A better question is, how can I become more valuable? Success is often a byproduct of value. Businesses grow because they solve meaningful problems. Leaders earn influence because they improve the lives of others. Professionals advance because they become difficult to replace. Relationships deepen because people feel safe, respected, and understood. Value creates opportunity. Attention only creates visibility. This shift in thinking changes everything. Instead of asking how you can impress people, ask how you can serve them. Instead of wondering how to appear intelligent, commit yourself to lifelong learning. Instead of chasing compliments, become someone whose work consistently exceeds expectations. Eventually, people will begin recommending you even when you are not in the room. That is one of the highest forms of respect. Your reputation begins traveling ahead of you. There is another important truth. Becoming valuable also requires becoming selective. Not every opportunity deserves your energy. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every relationship deserves unlimited access to your time. The more valuable your life becomes, the more carefully you must protect it. This is not arrogance. It is stewardship. You cannot produce your best work if your energy is constantly scattered. You cannot develop mastery if you are always distracted. You cannot become exceptional while trying to please everyone. Focus is one of the hidden ingredients of value. As you continue raising your standards, commit yourself to quiet improvement. Read one more chapter when others stop learning. Practice one more hour when others settle for average. Keep one more promise when excuses seem easier. Treat one more person with kindness when nobody is watching. These moments may seem insignificant on their own. Together, they shape your identity. One day, someone will ask why people trust you so quickly. Someone else will wonder why opportunities seem to find you. Another person will admire the respect you naturally receive. They may think it happened overnight, but you will know the truth. It was built through thousands of ordinary decisions that no one applauded. Remember this as you move forward. Your goal is not to become famous. Your goal is not to become admired for appearances. Your goal is to become so valuable in character, discipline, wisdom, and integrity that your reputation speaks before you ever introduce yourself. When that happens, you will no longer feel the need to explain who you are. Your habits will explain it. Your consistency will explain it. Your integrity will explain it, and your life will become the kind of introduction that no words could ever improve. Chapter 9. Heal the invisible wound that makes you over-explain. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and replayed every word in your mind? Maybe you wondered if you talked too much. Maybe you worried that someone misunderstood your intentions. Maybe you wished you had explained yourself better. Or perhaps you found yourself sending another message just to make sure the other person wasn't upset. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Many people believe they over-explain because they are polite or thoughtful. While kindness may play a small role, the deeper reason is often emotional rather than conversational. Over-explaining is frequently the voice of an invisible wound, the fear of being rejected, misunderstood, or considered unworthy. That wound is rarely created overnight. It develops quietly over years. Perhaps as a child, you were constantly questioned whenever you made a mistake. Maybe you felt that love had to be earned by being perfect, obedient, or useful. Perhaps every decision required justification, and every emotion had to be defended. Without realizing it, your mind learned a dangerous lesson. If I explain myself well enough, I will be accepted. As you grew older, that belief followed you into friendships, relationships, and work. You apologized for things that weren't your fault. You defended choices that required no defense. You worried endlessly about disappointing people. You believed that if someone misunderstood you, it was your responsibility to fix it. But carrying that responsibility is exhausting. The truth is, no explanation is powerful enough to heal a fear that exists inside you. That fear can only be healed by changing what you believe about yourself. Think about how much emotional energy over-explaining consumes. A simple conversation ends, yet it continues in your mind for hours. You replay every sentence. You analyze every facial expression. You imagine what the other person might be thinking. Instead of living in the present, you become trapped in an imaginary courtroom inside your own mind. The strange part is that most of the people you're worrying about have already moved on with their day. The battle exists almost entirely within you. This is why healing begins with awareness. Every time you feel the urge to explain yourself excessively, pause for a moment and ask a simple question. Am I speaking to communicate, or am I speaking because I am afraid of being rejected? That single question reveals more than you might expect. If fear is driving your words, no amount of explanation will ever feel like enough. Fear always demands one more sentence, one more apology, one more reason, one more attempt to gain approval. Eventually, you realize you are not having conversations anymore. You are negotiating for acceptance. That is not communication, it is emotional survival. One of the greatest examples of quiet confidence can be found in the life of Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher. Socrates spent his life asking difficult questions that challenged the beliefs of powerful people. Many misunderstood him, others accused him of corrupting the youth of Athens. Eventually he was placed on trial and sentenced to death. What makes his story remarkable is not the outcome, but his response. Socrates had opportunities to escape punishment. He could have abandoned his principles to save his life. He could have reshaped his beliefs simply to gain public approval. He refused. He remained calm because his identity was rooted in his values, not in the opinions of the crowd. He understood something timeless. A person who knows who they are does not need to constantly defend themselves before every critic. His quiet conviction has inspired humanity for more than 2,000 years. His legacy reminds us that inner certainty outlives public opinion. Most of us will never face a trial like Socrates did, but we experience smaller versions of it almost every day. Someone questions our decision. Someone misunderstands our intentions. Someone disagrees with our choices. Immediately, the old wound whispers, "Explain yourself. Make them understand. Don't let them think badly of you." Yet emotionally healthy people respond differently. They ask themselves another question. Do I respect the person I see in the mirror? Because when self-respect becomes stronger than the fear of rejection, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing understanding from everyone. You stop measuring your worth through other people's reactions. You begin trusting your own judgment. This doesn't mean becoming stubborn or refusing feedback. Growth always requires humility. Wise people listen. They reflect. They admit mistakes when necessary, but they do not confuse humility with insecurity. An insecure person apologizes for existing. A humble person apologizes only when they have done something wrong. There is a world of difference. Healing this invisible wound also means learning to accept an uncomfortable truth. Some people will misunderstand you no matter how clearly you explain yourself, not because your explanation was poor, but because their perspective, experiences, and expectations are different from yours. Trying to control another person's perception is like trying to control the weather. You may wish it were different, but wishing will not change reality. Acceptance creates peace, where control creates exhaustion. As your standards rise, your conversations will become shorter, but more meaningful. Your apologies will become fewer, but more sincere. Your words will carry greater weight because they are no longer motivated by fear. Instead of explaining yourself repeatedly, you will begin allowing your character to speak on your behalf. Your consistency will answer questions before they are asked. Your integrity will defend your reputation without endless arguments. And your peace will become more valuable than winning every misunderstanding. Healing is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming emotionally secure. It is reaching the point where criticism no longer destroys your confidence, where disagreement no longer feels like rejection, and where misunderstanding no longer forces you to abandon your peace. That kind of confidence cannot be borrowed from compliments. It cannot be purchased through success. It must be built from within. So, the next time you feel the urge to over-explain, take a slow breath before you speak. Remind yourself that your value does not increase because someone approves of you. It does not decrease because someone misunderstands you. You are not responsible for convincing every person you meet. You are responsible for living honestly, acting with integrity, and remaining faithful to your values. Heal the invisible wound that keeps asking the world for permission to be yourself. Because the moment you stop seeking acceptance from every voice around you is the moment you finally begin hearing the quiet voice within. And that voice has been telling you the truth all along. You were always enough. You never needed a longer explanation. You only needed a deeper belief in your own worth. Chapter 10. The Power of Quiet Success. In a world where everyone seems to be announcing their next move, there is something incredibly powerful about the person who simply keeps working. Every day, millions of people post their ambitions, share their plans, and seek recognition before they have achieved anything. They want the world to know what they are building long before the foundation is complete. They mistake visibility for progress and attention for achievement. But quiet success follows a different path. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't need constant validation. It simply grows. There is a unique confidence that belongs to people who are focused on becoming rather than appearing. They understand that the greatest victories are often built behind closed doors, far away from cameras, compliments, and public approval. While others are busy talking about what they hope to accomplish, they are taking one small step after another, allowing time to multiply their efforts. This is not because they lack confidence. It is because they have discovered something more valuable than attention. They have discovered purpose. Purpose has a remarkable effect on the human mind. It keeps you moving even when nobody notices your efforts. It gives meaning to ordinary days and repetitive work. It reminds you that today's unseen discipline is preparing tomorrow's visible success. Most people admire the finished product. Very few appreciate the invisible process. They celebrate the successful entrepreneur, but never see the years of rejection. They admire the healthy body, but overlook the thousands of disciplined choices made every morning. They applaud the best-selling author, but ignore the lonely nights spent writing pages that no one had yet read. The world notices results. Life rewards consistency. That is why quiet success is so powerful. It teaches you to fall in love with the process instead of becoming addicted to recognition. One of the greatest examples of this principle is Leonardo da Vinci. Today, he is remembered as one of history's greatest artists, inventors, and thinkers. His masterpieces continue to inspire the world centuries after his death. But what many people overlook is the extraordinary patience behind his work. Leonardo spent years studying anatomy, engineering, mathematics, nature, and human expression. He filled countless notebooks with sketches, observations, and ideas that were never intended for public applause. Much of his greatest work happened in silence, driven not by the desire to impress others, but by an endless curiosity to master his craft. He understood that excellence could never be rushed. While others searched for quick recognition, Leonardo invested deeply in learning, refining, and improving. His quiet commitment to mastery became the foundation of a legacy that has survived for more than 500 years. His life reminds us that lasting success is rarely loud during its creation. It becomes loud only after years of silent dedication. The same principle applies to your own journey. Imagine planting a seed. After placing it into the soil, nothing appears to happen for days or even weeks. If you judged its progress only by what you could see, you might assume it was failing. But beneath the surface, something extraordinary is taking place. Roots are spreading, strength is developing, life is preparing itself before it becomes visible. Your personal growth follows the same pattern. Every book you read, every skill you practice, every difficult conversation you handle with maturity, every temptation you resist, every promise you keep, these are roots. People may not notice them today, but one day they will see the tree. Unfortunately, many people become discouraged because they compare their invisible beginnings with someone else's visible achievements. Social media makes this temptation even stronger. You see promotions, celebrations, luxury lifestyles, awards, and milestones. What you rarely see are the failures, sacrifices, disappointments, and years of quiet persistence that made those moments possible. Comparison steals joy because it ignores the unseen part of success. Everyone wants the harvest. Few are willing to prepare the soil. That is why raising your standards requires protecting your focus. Stop measuring your progress against someone else's timeline. Measure it against the person you were yesterday. If you are becoming wiser, stronger, kinder, more disciplined, and more resilient, then you are succeeding, even if nobody else notices yet. Quiet success also teaches patience. Patience does not mean waiting without action. It means continuing to work faithfully without demanding immediate rewards. A sculptor doesn't strike marble once and expect a masterpiece. A musician doesn't practice for a week and expect perfection. A farmer doesn't plant today and harvest tomorrow. Nature itself teaches that everything valuable grows over time. Your character deserves the same patience. There is another hidden strength in quiet success. It protects you from the pressure of public expectations. When you announce every goal before taking action, you often become focused on maintaining an image rather than making progress. But when you work quietly, you are free to learn, fail, adjust, and improve without constantly worrying about how others perceive you. Failure becomes a teacher instead of an embarrassment. Mistakes become lessons instead of public disappointments. Growth becomes personal instead of performative. That freedom is priceless. People who chase attention often stop when attention disappears. People driven by purpose continue even when nobody is watching. Ask yourself a simple question. If no one ever applauded your efforts, would you still continue? If the answer is yes, then your motivation is built on something solid. If the answer is no, perhaps you have been working for recognition more than fulfillment. True confidence grows in private. It is built every time you honor your commitments without needing praise. It grows every time you choose discipline over comfort. It strengthens every time you continue despite silence. Eventually, something remarkable happens. The very people who overlooked your efforts begin noticing your results. The same people who questioned your discipline begin asking for your advice. The same critics who doubted your potential suddenly call you fortunate. But you know the truth. Luck had very little to do with it. What they call luck was years of quiet preparation. What they call talent was endless practice. What they call overnight success was built through thousands of ordinary days that nobody celebrated. That is why you must never become discouraged by invisible progress. Some of the most important work in your life will happen when nobody is paying attention. Keep studying. Keep improving. Keep showing up. Keep honoring your standards. Let others chase temporary attention if they choose. Your responsibility is to build something that lasts. One day your success will speak for itself, not because you announced it, not because you demanded recognition, but because your work became impossible to ignore. Remember, noise may attract attention for a moment, but excellence earns respect for a lifetime. As you continue raising your standards, choose the path of quiet success. Allow your discipline to remain unseen if necessary. Allow your growth to happen patiently. Allow your character to mature without constant approval. Because when the time finally comes for the world to notice you, you won't need to introduce yourself. Your results will already have done that. And in the end, that is the greatest kind of success, not the success that shouts for recognition, but the success that quietly transforms your life until recognition arrives on its own. Chapter 11. Build a life that speaks before you do. Imagine walking into a room where no one knows your name. No one knows your profession. No one knows how much money you make, where you studied, or what achievements you've collected. Yet within a few minutes, people begin to trust you. Not because of what you say, but because of how you carry yourself. Your calmness during conversation, your ability to listen without interrupting, the respect you show to everyone, regardless of their status. The confidence that doesn't seek attention, the kindness that doesn't expect anything in return. Before your words introduce you, your life already has. That is the goal of this entire journey. Not to become someone who can explain themselves better, but to become someone whose character explains everything. Throughout this audiobook, you have learned to stop begging for understanding, to protect your boundaries, to embrace discipline, to let go of the need for validation, and to value quiet success. But all of those lessons point toward one destination: building a life so rooted in integrity that your actions become your greatest testimony. Many people spend years trying to create the perfect image. They worry about saying the right thing, wearing the right clothes, impressing the right people, and receiving enough recognition. They carefully polish the outside while quietly neglecting the inside. But appearances have limits. Eventually, life places every person in situations where character becomes impossible to hide. Pressure reveals patience. Failure reveals resilience. Success reveals humility. Criticism reveals emotional maturity. No speech can replace the evidence of daily habits. This is why your habits matter far more than your intentions. Anyone can promise honesty. Few consistently tell the truth when lying would be easier. Anyone can talk about discipline. Few continue working when excitement disappears. Anyone can speak about kindness. Few remain compassionate when they receive nothing in return. Character is not built during extraordinary moments. It is built during ordinary days. Every morning you choose responsibility over excuses. Another piece of your character is formed. Every time you keep a promise that no one else knows about, your integrity grows stronger. Every moment you refuse to compromise your values for temporary comfort, you become someone your future self will respect. These moments rarely make headlines, but they shape your destiny. Consider the life of Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher. He ruled one of the greatest empires in history, commanding enormous wealth and authority. Yet his personal writings, later collected as meditations, reveal a man far more concerned with mastering himself than controlling others. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to remain humble, patient, disciplined, and just. He believed that a person's reputation should not be built on grand speeches, but on consistent virtue. Even while leading an empire through wars, political challenges, and personal loss, he focused on becoming a better human being every day. He understood something timeless. The hardest person to lead is yourself. The greatest victory is not conquering nations, it is conquering your own ego. Centuries later, people still study Marcus Aurelius, not simply because he was an emperor, but because his life reflected the values he believed in. His character became his introduction. That same principle can shape your own life. You don't need a throne to become respected. You need consistency. Imagine two individuals applying for the same opportunity. One speaks confidently about their abilities, but has a history of broken promises. The other says very little, but has built a reputation for reliability, honesty, and excellence. Who would you trust? Most people choose the second person, because trust is earned through repeated actions, not impressive conversations. This is true in every area of life. A strong relationship is not built by saying, "I love you," once. It is built by showing love consistently through patience, respect, loyalty, and presence. A successful career is not built through one brilliant presentation. It is built by years of dependable work, continuous learning, and unwavering professionalism. Financial stability is not created by one lucky opportunity. It grows from disciplined choices repeated over time. A meaningful life is never an accident. It is the result of thousands of small decisions that align with your values. One decision to wake up instead of sleeping in. One decision to forgive instead of holding resentment. One decision to save instead of spending impulsively. One decision to study instead of wasting another evening. One decision to tell the truth when dishonesty seems easier. Individually, these decisions appear insignificant. Together, they shape your identity. People often ask how extraordinary individuals become extraordinary. The answer is surprisingly simple. They become extraordinarily consistent. They continue doing the right thing long after the excitement disappears. They refuse shortcuts when shortcuts compromise integrity. They understand that greatness is not a single event. It is a lifestyle. As you continue raising your standards, remember that your life is speaking every day. It speaks through the promises you keep. It speaks through the respect you show. It speaks through the discipline you practice. It speaks through the way you respond when life becomes difficult. Even silence speaks. The question is not whether your life is communicating. The question is what message it is sending. Is it saying that your values change whenever circumstances become uncomfortable? Or is it saying that your principles remain firm regardless of the situation? There is tremendous freedom in becoming someone whose actions consistently match their words. You no longer need to convince people that you are dependable. They already know. You no longer need to explain your intentions repeatedly. Your behavior has established your credibility. You no longer need to seek admiration. Respect arrives naturally where integrity lives consistently. Of course, this journey never truly ends. Every day offers another opportunity to strengthen your character or weaken it. Every decision becomes another vote for the person you are becoming. The beautiful part is that you do not need to transform your entire life overnight. You only need to remain faithful to the next right decision. Then repeat it tomorrow and the day after that. Eventually, those ordinary decisions become extraordinary results. One day, someone will ask how you became so calm under pressure. Another person will admire your discipline. Someone else will trust your judgment without hesitation. They may assume confidence came naturally to you. They may believe success simply found you. But you will know the truth. It was never about speaking more convincingly. It was about living more intentionally. So as this journey nears its conclusion, make one final commitment. Do not spend your life trying to create the perfect impression. Spend your life becoming the kind of person whose character leaves the deepest impression. Because titles fade, money comes and goes, recognition rises and falls, but integrity endures. Build a life that speaks before you do. Let your habits become your reputation. Let your consistency become your voice. And let every decision reflect the standards you have chosen to live by. When that happens, you will discover something extraordinary. The less you need to tell people who you are, the more clearly they will already know. Chapter 12. Your legacy will never be your excuses. One day, every conversation you have ever had will come to an end. Every opinion people held about you will fade. Every argument you tried to win will be forgotten. Every explanation you gave to convince someone you were right will disappear with time. But one thing will remain: your legacy. The question is not whether you will leave one. The question is what kind of legacy you will leave. When people remember your life, they won't remember how many times you defended your decisions. They won't remember how many arguments you won or how many critics you silenced. They won't remember the countless moments you tried to justify your dreams to people who never intended to understand them. They will remember something far more important. They will remember how you lived. They will remember the promises you kept when breaking them would have been easier. They will remember your courage when life became difficult. They will remember your kindness when others chose bitterness. They will remember your discipline when comfort tempted you to quit. In the end, actions outlive explanations. Think about the people who have inspired history. Their words may have been powerful, but it was their lives that gave those words meaning. Their habits, sacrifices, convictions, and unwavering commitment to their principles became the stories that generations continue to admire. Every meaningful legacy begins long before the world notices it. It begins with small choices. The choice to tell the truth, even when a lie would bring temporary comfort. The choice to remain honest when no one is watching. The choice to continue working after everyone else has given up. The choice to forgive instead of seeking revenge. The choice to protect your values even when compromising them would be easier. These moments rarely seem extraordinary while they are happening, yet they quietly shape the person you become. Consider the life of Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's most respected presidents, Lincoln experienced repeated failures. He lost elections. He faced business setbacks. He endured personal heartbreak and constant criticism. Many people doubted his ability to lead during one of the most difficult periods in his nation's history. He could have spent his life defending himself against every critic. He could have allowed rejection to convince him that he was not capable. Instead, he remained committed to his principles. He continued serving, learning, and leading with humility. History remembers him not because he explained himself better than everyone else, but because his character remained stronger than the obstacles before him. His legacy was built through perseverance, integrity, and service. That same opportunity exists for every one of us. You may never become famous. Your name may never appear in history books. But your legacy is not measured by fame. It is measured by influence. The way you raise your children, the way you treat your family, the example you set for your friends, the honesty you bring into your workplace, the compassion you show strangers, the promises you keep when no one expects you to. These are the moments that shape how people will remember you. Many people spend years trying to protect their reputation. Wise people spend their lives building their character. Reputation depends on what others think. Character depends on what you repeatedly choose. Reputation can change overnight because of rumors. Character grows stronger with every decision rooted in integrity. When character becomes your priority, you no longer fear criticism as much. You no longer panic when someone misunderstands your intentions. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision, because you understand something deeply important. Time has a way of revealing truth. Consistent actions eventually become impossible to ignore. As this journey comes to an end, think back to where it began. You learned to stop begging to be understood. You learned that silence can be stronger than arguments. You learned that growth sometimes requires walking alone. You learned to protect your boundaries without guilt. You learned that your life is not a courtroom. You learned to let discipline speak louder than promises. You learned to stop chasing validation from people who never intended to applaud you. You learned to become so valuable that your character introduced you before your words did. You learned to heal the invisible wounds that made you seek constant approval. You learned that quiet success always outlasts loud intentions. And finally, you learned to build a life that speaks before you do. Each lesson has been preparing you for one final truth. You do not become extraordinary in a single dramatic moment. You become extraordinary through ordinary decisions repeated every day. Every sunrise offers another opportunity to become a little more honest, a little more disciplined, a little more patient, a little more courageous, a little more faithful to your values. That is how legacies are built, not in front of crowds, but in quiet moments when no one is watching. So from this day forward, stop measuring your life by the opinions you collect. Measure it by the promises you keep. Stop asking whether everyone understands your journey. Ask whether your actions reflect your deepest values. Stop trying to prove your worth through endless explanations. Prove it through the way you live. Years from now, people may forget your words. They may forget your titles. They may forget your possessions. But they will never forget the way your life made them feel. They will remember your integrity. They will remember your courage. They will remember your compassion. They will remember that your actions always matched your principles. That is a legacy no criticism can erase. That is a life no explanation can improve. So raise your standards, honor your values, protect your peace, live with courage, lead with integrity, and let every choice you make become another sentence in the story your life is writing. Because when the final chapter of your life is complete, your excuses will have no voice, but your character will speak forever. As you close this audiobook, remember that nothing changes simply because you listened. Everything changes because of what you choose to do next. From this moment forward, stop wasting your energy trying to convince people who have already decided not to understand you. Stop chasing approval from those who never intended to give it. Stop explaining your dreams, your boundaries, and your purpose to people who have not earned the right to judge them. Instead, let your life become the answer. Let your discipline speak when others expect excuses. Let your character speak when others spread opinions. Let your consistency speak when others make empty promises. And let your results speak when others question your potential. There will still be people who misunderstand you. There will still be critics who doubt you. There will still be moments when silence feels difficult and walking away feels unfair. But never forget that your peace is more valuable than winning an argument, and your future is too important to sacrifice for someone else's approval. Every day gives you another opportunity to raise your standards a little higher. Protect your time, guard your energy, keep your promises, stay true to your values, even when no one is watching. Those quiet decisions will shape the person you become and the legacy you leave behind. One day, people may ask how you earned their respect. The answer won't be found in your explanations. It will be found in your habits. It will be found in your integrity. It will be found in the quiet confidence of a life lived with purpose. So walk forward with courage. Raise your standards. Trust your actions. And remember, the strongest statement you will ever make is not something you say. It is the life you choose to live.